So this session is called Fluid Worlds, Science Fiction as a Tool for Exploring Futures with Marjolaine and Amrita. And before we go into the session, we just wanted to let you know again that this is part of a larger event called Women Who Futures, organized by myself and Abril. And this event emerged from our desire to really create safe spaces to exchange, promote, and celebrate the work of women in futures and foresight. But we also wanted to showcase the diversity of women and the approaches women are taking in this field and reflect on how women's identities inform our practices and our intersectional identities inform our practices, and then find new ways of articulating feminist principles and gender equality, gender issues in futures and foresight. So we have an amazing lineup of speakers, panelists, designers, academics, facilitators. So take a look at the program. You'll probably find much more sessions for you to join today or next week. And by participating to this event, you agree with our code of behavior or code of conduct that I'm going to put in the chat. So we have a zero tolerance policy in any on any kind of like form of discrimination or harassment. So this is meant to be really a safe space where we respect each other and different opinions, and they are very welcome. So now I will hand it over to these two amazing women, Marjolaine and Amrita. The room is yours.
Thank you, Thais. Welcome, everyone. I see in the meantime, some people are still joining us. So welcome, everyone, for this Fluid Worlds workshop we will be doing with you today. First, before we get started, I really want to acknowledge the extreme suffering of women in other places in the world, Gaza, Sudan, and Yemen, and of course, any other places. And I hope that this is also a way where we can rethink futures from different kinds of perspectives, none the least, of course, here, the female perspective. So what we are going to do today is very creative. And before we introduce ourselves, I want to share a space with you, a Miro board, and I'll copy the link in the chat. And this is also where you find some of the things that'll introduce us. So I want to invite you to click on that link and go to the Miro board. If there's any problem for you to enter it, just let us know by talking or putting it in the chat. I'll just wait a little bit before everyone's in the Miro board. And I hope that when you enter it, you'll see a big Fluid Worlds like logo for the workshop. That's where you're supposed to be. And if you don't see it, you can zoom in and out just toggling on your keyboard or using the plus and minus arrows at the top, or sorry, the bottom right of the Miro board. I see a lot of...
Do you want me to share the screen, Marjolaine?
Yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah. For some, it may be good to see it. Okay. So here we are. We are on the Miro board, which is where we'll be doing our creative science fiction storytelling today. If you found the Fluid Worlds words, you're in the right place, and you can move to the right. You can just use like your mouse or your keys to move around the board. And if you go to the right of the Fluid Worlds world, you see these two sort of boards, one where there's a quick intro about me and one where there's one about Amrita. So I'll just start real quick with me, and Amrita will introduce herself as well. We will be doing this workshop together. And yeah, I hope we have a lot of fun. If at any point you have any questions, you can just turn on your microphone and just talk or put a question in the chat if you're more comfortable with that. So I'm Marjolein. I'm a future psychologist and a speculative designer, but I wasn't always that. I used to be a marine ecologist and a climate change researcher. This is where I was trained in. And I worked as an information designer and storyteller. I had my own company for 12 years. I did that. I did these kind of things like infographics, which was really fun. But it wasn't addressing like real world problems that I saw around me. So that's when I went on a sort of self-discovery journey. I did a lot of like drawing and exploring with different kind of tools. And then in the end, I found like my niche, which is like the bottom image, as a futures ecologist, which is what I am now, where I combine all my insights from ecology, from design, from storytelling, and from speculations into work where I reimagine futures with organizations. And a big project of mine is Birth Futures. This is the project Amrita and I work on together, and we explore what birth looks like in the future. I'm going to Peru in 3 weeks to do a workshop with midwives, which lasts three days, where they give their vision rooted in their own cultural backgrounds of what they think the future of birth will look like. So I think this is enough about me. Amrita, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So you can just jump into my quick intro. So I am an animator. I come from a very traditional background where I started animating with a light box. It's a very old technique back in the day when Disney used to do it. And so I used to basically animate in a light box with the help of paper and ink, and that's how I started my journey in animation. And then I moved to 2D and 3D animation, where I started exploring more in this field, where with a lot of softwares and things like that. But I think mainly is I use this kind of softwares to explore styles and how to have different expressions. I did make like 3 short films in animation, and then I've sent them to international film festivals as well. And in this journey, I stumbled upon AI, which was around last, I think, 2022 in August, when the AI boom started. And I found it to be quite eclectic and quite raw, which is what attracted me to the medium itself. And then I started doing a lot of explorations in AI, and I found it to be quite magical. It kind of took me back to a particular animator before Disney. His name was Norman McLaren, and in this AI journey is where probably I met Marioline, and we started working with in Birth Futures project. And this is where we used AI to dream of future. So a lot of these sketches and a lot of these ideations that you see is kind of like world building for the birth future, and where pregnant women would engage in more like tribal activities, where they would be fit and not like what Google shows, where they would like hold bellies and look at their partners and things like that. So this is how we're trying to like break the world. And I'm also a philosophy nerd, so a lot of my ideas and a lot of my thoughts come from reading philosophy. I feel like it's great content at the end of the day. But yeah, so I am an AI animator now, and yeah, that's it. So I'm handing it over to you.
So, what we're going to do today is we're going to create like a micro future story set in a future that we will get to create. We will get to speculate about that. And I want to invite everyone to move to the middle of the board. If you zoom out a bit, you see a purple dot, a purple circle in the middle, and it says, "We start here." Yeah, if you look at the screen recording in the Zoom, you can also see it. I see a lot of people already gathering here. I'm here in the middle as well. So just a quick setup of like the next like hour and a half or hour and 20 minutes we still have is we are first going to explore the future. We're going to explore 4 fluid scenarios for the future. We're going to create 4 worlds, and we do that with a methodology that I use a lot, and it's called the 2x2 matrix. You basically have these two axes, a horizontal one and a vertical one, and we put 2 developments there. The ones we chose were 2 developments that we thought would lead to interesting, different future scenarios. One of the things I always try is to focus not just on technology, which is what a lot of scenario and futuring is about, but about like the social implications of technology, or how are we going to live, or how are we going to love. So we chose 2 developments. On the vertical axis, you see gender. And on the horizontal axis, sort of like families, or how society is structured socially. So when you do this kind of future and you choose two sort of extremes or two like different kind of developments to get different kind of outcomes. And it's not about predicting the future, but it's about imagining what this would be. And we can learn things by imagining these futures, by reflecting on if it's a desirable future for us or for me personally. So on the vertical axis at the top, you see we're looking at a future, and let's say it's the year 2100, really far into the future. So we can really go crazy with our imaginations, really speculative. So in the future, there's no more genders. It doesn't play a role. It's not how we define people. It's just not there anymore. And what that means and what kind of implications it is that this might have is up to you in a minute. On the other hand, like at the bottom of the vertical axis, you see there's a strong gender division, basically the society we have now, at least in the Western world, but maybe even a bit more. And there's a strong division of labor based on gender. So it's basically business as it is now, but maybe even a bit more pronounced. Then on the horizontal axis, you have on the left-hand side that communal groups are the fabric of society. And on the other hand, on the right-hand side of the horizontal axis, you see the traditional core family is the foundation of society. So again, on the right-hand side, it's a bit like the way our society is structured now, like families, if that is just one person or two adults or adults with kids, that's sort of the foundational structure of society. Like you buy a house, the way you buy a house, the way you get your taxes claimed. It's not a universal thing all worldwide, and I don't know where you're all from, but where we're based now in Europe, this is like the basic structure of families, and we're assuming a future where this is still the case. And on the other hand, the left-hand side, we have more of these like communal groups. So people, you can imagine people living more in communal groups, different kind of relationships, maybe even. Like, is there still like a monogamy in those kind of communities, or is it a different kind of relationship that people have? We can start speculating on that now. So what we're going to do now is you can use the Miro board, which is a creative brainstorming tool, to put your ideas in each of these squares. So we get 4 different futures. The left upper side is a combination of no more genders and communal groups of the way people live together. The right top side is no more genders, but a traditional core family structure. Like, how does that work? What does that look like? Bottom right, we have traditional core families, but also strong gender division. And on the bottom left side, we have strong gender division and communal groups. So you have 4 different combinations of these developments. If there's any questions about that, let me just take a minute now to take or answer these questions, because it's important that it's clear what we're going to be doing. And if at any time later there's a question, just let me know. So you can now start brainstorming. We have images on the left and right hand side. We just compiled some images, but you can copy and paste any kind of image from the internet if you want, or from your computer. You can just drag it on the board. You can just basically, you can just try it out. Just go to these images and just drag them across the board. Like here, I put this image here. You can just choose images where you feel they fit within one of these scenarios. Then on the the left-hand side, you see this menu with all of these options. The sticky note one is a really handy one. If you can just try it out. You can just click on the sticky note, which is that little square with folded edge. Yeah, just like Thais showing now in the screen. You can just take a post-it and put it on the board. And you can put your ideas there, like just thoughts or words or phrases, like what happens in these kind of futures? What kind of problems do we have? What kind of beautiful things do we have? What does it look like? So I already see people doing this, so that's great. So just play around a little bit with the Miro board. You can use post-its. You can also use text boxes, which is the big T, and you can just write things down. There's no right or wrong. It's really up to you. And take some time to look at what other people are putting in there as well. And let me give you like maybe 10 minutes or so for this, to see what kind of futures we get. And we'll sort of reflect on the board and the 4 scenarios after about 10 minutes. Amrita, if you have anything to add or any tips for the people, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. But I think I'm gonna wait till the board is populated and then probably, yeah.
I feel like we could use a song as like a background music. I don't know if that's possible. Might be nice to put on the playlist if that's possible.
We can share with you the playlist because you're sharing the screen. So in order to share the audio. Oh, nice.
Marjolaine, Lina is asking, where did you get these amazing pictures and images?
Yeah, so actually I use a lot of Unsplash, which is like a royalty-free database of images where you can use the images. And I think some are created with Midjourney. And Amrita also added a lot of pictures. I don't know where you got them from.
Yeah, some of them are Midjourney, which I created actually. So yeah, I just placed it.
Yeah, I see the one with the face with the mask. I think you used that, right, for the layer, yeah.
Yeah. That one is personally my favorite.
This one, you mean?
Yeah, that one. The face with the wire. I kind of liked it.
Amazing.
Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei. Sopra o vento, mãe, vendaval de axé, o tempo que tange o movimento, oiá, Iansã e parei.
So just take your time to finalize your final thoughts. And then let's look at the board together. I'm actually pretty impressed with everything I see here. Like, I do these workshops with organizations all the time, but they're like finding it sometimes really hard to like speculate, but you guys are just going wild, and I really love that. So what I want to do is just maybe walk around the board, maybe with Amrita too, like some of the things that pop out to us. And afterwards, I will give you some time to read through everything, or at least to some of the things that you're really interested in. And I'm gonna ask some people like to maybe elaborate a little bit about what you wrote or why you wrote it, and what you think that kind of world looks like. Because the whole idea of this exercise is to sort of, it's a bit of a world building thing as well. You can sort of feel or imagine yourself being in that kind of future and what it would mean or what kind of things are important. And also, after this, we're going to give these some titles. Like every scenario gets its own title, epic title. But first, let's take a look at it. Starting at the top left. So let me zoom in a little bit. So this is the scenario where there's no more genders and communal groups that are the fabric of society. I see a lot of things like more than human ecologies, connectivity, a shared consciousness, social values, and someone who puts in natural human population decline. Maybe let's go into the on the bottom right of that square. I see tribal upbringing. It's like the white post-it. No, sorry, I'm still at the top. left scenario, but in the scenario there is this
Ah.
little square called
Yep.
tribal upbringing, role of parents dissolved, everyone's a parent. Maybe the person who put it there can come into the with the microphone. Just introduce yourself real quick and tell me about your idea. If you're comfortable to do that. I don't hear anything, so either I assume that it's not possible for this person to comment on, or maybe someone forget that they put it there. Is there anyone else who put something here in this scenario and wants to share their ideas, like what they wrote and why they put it there?
Feel free to use the chat if you prefer as well.
Yeah, you can use the chat as well. I see someone raise their hand. You can just turn on the, you can just turn on your microphone. Katarzyna?
Yeah, Kasia is easier.
Okay.
Probably. Yes, so I think that they are like making one picture. I put here connectivity and more than human ecologies, and
Yeah, these two.
also one shared consciousness. And I think that it's quite related to the idea of that everyone is a parent. So when we don't have gender roles and we are, what is the second axis?
Communal groups, like
Communal groups. And thinking about 2100, I was thinking that we can be maybe even like beyond our bodies, and we are all connected in some kind of one universal being, and then it's living in a peace and in self-care. So we are trying to have this one ecology that is not fighting or pieces of it. It's not treated as resources. We don't have norms. We are just a fluid consciousness.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you see like there's a role for technology here as well in this
Yes,
like building
course.
of this shared consciousness?
Yeah, I think that technology is actually the way we can access this kind of consciousness.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really interesting insight. Thank you very much.
We
I
have
love
two
the
hands up.
Sorry, yeah.
No, yeah, we have two hands up, but go
Oh yeah,
ahead.
'cause I
Finish your
only see
thoughts.
like a couple part of the
Yeah.
screen. Please, maybe. Oh, there's is it two Charlottes or is it the
Yeah.
same person?
No, Charlotte and Sonia.
Okay,
Go
maybe
ahead,
Charlotte first.
Charlotte. Yeah.
Yes, maybe I start. My bit is like this large chunk of text, unfortunately rather wordy. I don't know who put the picture next to it, but it's actually rather fitting. So my idea was inspired by a picture I found in the book Speculative Everything. It was a project by David Benke. And my idea was basically nomad businesses that travel the land instead of businesses with a headquarter, and everyone who wants to join them or needs work can join. Yes, but since they're like more than employees, they also live together, and I'm imagining human relationships kind of developing in this kind of community. And I'm imagining that everyone is free to leave as they please whenever and wherever. But within this community, I'm imagining that you can live under the name and identity of your choice. And I thought that was an interesting idea.
Yeah,
Yes.
I really like this. It sort of reminds me of like the way, well, circuses are maybe romanticized in stories and film, but when you travel and you're a family and you're also like moving places and going places. So I really love that. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Sonia.
Yeah, thanks. So what I noticed as I looked at my own and other contributions was that as we moved into the left and the top, it gave freedom. So some of the pictures and the descriptions are sort of an opening up of our world. But then as we go really to the top left, we're starting to go away from rules, the rules that we're familiar with now. And that leads to chaos, a sense of not knowing, everything is upside down. So I thought it was an interesting reflection. You know, they say, I mean, anthropologists say that humans categorize by nature, that by definition, all societies categorize things and people. And as we start to lose the categories that we're familiar with, you can call it fluid and open, or you can call it chaotic, and it might lead to other emergence. But there's this period of uncertainty and chaos as those categories are being re-understood.
Thank you for that contribution, because I think that really there's this a metaphor that I use, or it's used a lot in systems analysis. It's called panarchy, and you have like something starts to grow and it grows, and then it sort of disintegrates. It becomes chaos, or it dies, and then it has to reorganize itself. And I think what you see here in this specific scenario is that we are exploring the boundaries. We go beyond these boundaries. And then, of course, there's always these different sides of things, like when everything's unraveling, it can, of course, be very chaotic, and we can be very unsure, and maybe even that can be like scary or dystopic or disorienting. And I love that you see that sort of in the visuals, the way people start from like the middle and then branch out to something that's more and more beyond, I guess. Okay, let's go to the next scenario. So we'll go all 4 scenarios just quick and then give them a title. And then afterwards we go on to sort of the next creative assignment for you to do. So the top right, the no more genders and the traditional core family, I noticed that this one and the top left one were the slowest to fill. Is there anyone, maybe that's the best way to ask rather than singling out a specific part of this, is there anyone who wants to say something about their contribution in this scenario? Raise your hand or just turn on your microphone. We're not with that many people here. Noticeable less enthusiasm for this this specific scenario.
Maybe I can raise my voice once more. I wrote the one to the like at the top, I might say so. Yes, this one. And I imagine that you know, that everyone kind of needs a partner in their life, that it's kind of like required, or that people are kind of pressured to really have a life partner, but that it is maybe very tricky to find one, because people have so many identities and so many life concepts, and that maybe AI is then used as a tool to create fitting partners for everyone.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was really curious how you would tackle this specific scenario, because it's on the one hand something that's really that we don't know in this society, like the no more genders concept, and the other one, and in this society again, I mean like the European or Western societies, and on the other hand, you do have traditional core families, and the idea of like the maybe monogamous. You don't write that, but that's sort of how I'm thinking about it now, like a monogamous long-term partner. But then also like, what do you base your attractions on, or how do you choose the right person, something like that? Is there anyone else who wants to comment on this? Because I read some really interesting things, like central media for the whole planet, Confucianism, yeah, chaotic sensibilities, reframing of domestic partnerships, no more stigma for heteronormative bros to opt to settle down to do life. See a lot of different images, like still family based, but also like different ways of expressing yourselves. So on the one hand, there's something about like exploring, opening up, but on the other hand, there's still something very structured in the way we structure our societies, and we see that reflected maybe also in things like central media for a whole planet, where we're still sort of, it's a bit of conformist, maybe. That's how I read it. Okay, let's move on to the next scenario. The one below that, the traditional core family and the strong gender division. So basically, like I said, maybe the way it is now, but even stronger. Is there anyone who wants to comment on their contributions to this scenario? Amrita, was there something here that stood out for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, the Uberization part was pretty interesting. Where was that? Yeah, Uberization of services for convenience of family unit. Like, I was wondering if someone could expand on that. That would be interesting. Because I don't like I honestly didn't know what it meant, so maybe that's why.
I'm reading some comments. Sonia commented, I'm not sure if, I think that was about the last scenario. In the chat, to me, this scenario seemed to lead to more individualistic success, but less communal social change in terms of roles and leadership. I think that was about the last scenario. If you're more comfortable commenting in the chat, just put your thoughts on the chat. Maybe just mention which scenario this is about, because we move on, it's hard to keep track of which scenario it was. But I was also interested in oh, I see Sonia raising her hand. Yeah, Sonia.
Yeah, sorry. So the Uberization was my comment, which was, and that one about individualistic was also based on this scenario. So there might be success of more types of people, and we see that in the images. So of more diverse people in this scenario, but that it's more of an individualistic success rather than a systemic change in sort of general access to, or in the way leadership is even conceived and organization and responsibilities are done.
Yep.
And so as opposed to like this idea of communal organization where you might have sharing of resources, here services are provided to meet everybody's needs, but it's on an individualistic, ability to pay, or it's like it's fend for yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think Katarina, sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name right, I'm
Kasia?
sorry.
Yeah, Katarina is also perfect. Can you zoom out a little bit? Yeah, I think this is not my comment, but I totally agree with this one. Handmaid tale type of word. This is how I imagine these two axes together. And I think it's quite connected with production and genetic engineering, like trying to reinforce ideal human, ideal woman, ideal man, and there are huge differences between the top of a population and everybody serving just for a group of people. So this is how I imagine it in the worst scenario.
Yeah, I imagine. I see a lot of these things. I don't see many like explicitly positive things. Or here on the top right, I see family is the safe space for individuals in a world where roles are clear and technology is an aid for every day. I think that's the most specifically positive comment. The others are a bit dire, I guess. I think Lena and then Sonia, who still raised her hand, I think it's a new comment, comes after. So Lena, please go.
Yeah, thank you. I posted the two pictures a bit further down to the left. Here. Yeah, those ones. And I think in general, what I see a lot of similarities between those two and some others in terms of there's a lot of technology, no, and that the human and the traditional family is not necessarily the biological human anymore. It's this maybe the superhuman, this robot human, whatever. Yeah. So where are the old humans in this scenario? I don't know. Do they still exist? Maybe not. And then the females still taking care of plants and maybe the food production. But it's a production. It's not this community effort.
So I read this also as technology being very much like in the lead and defining a lot of aspects of social life. I think basically the way futures are imagined now a lot of the time. And it's interesting to see that you come up with, compared to the other two that we already discussed, with different kind of futures and ideas, that when you take these things, core family and strong gender division, which are non-technological developments, that you all sort of agree on this more technological future, which to me is really interesting because it shows how much of these things are actually driven by non-technological developments and ideas and paradigms. Okay, thank you, Lina. Let's go to the final one, the communal groups, which are the fabric of society, and then also a strong gender division. Is there anyone who wants to comment on this one? This was also pretty slow to fill, which probably is because either, I don't know, it's not
you don't find it as interesting, or it's not the one you want. Maybe someone can comment on that. Is there anyone who was really like, I don't feel this kind of future, I wouldn't want to live in it? Or someone who can explain something about an image they put there?
Maybe someone can comment on the Eve's garden,
Yeah,
the green
this
one.
one. Communal gardens are the heart of the community, but they are women's territory, like Eve's garden.
Yes, I wrote that.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I saw the picture first,
Yeah.
and then I tried to make sense of it in the context of this scenario, and that's basically what came out of it.
It reminds me of this comment, adopting a matriarchal system. It's a bit behind the top menu in the Zoom.
Yes.
I think at first it was in the other scenario. I see now it's moved to here, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, could this be sort of the matriarchal society of the future with technology, but a very strong female-led society? That's my idea with this. Yeah.
It might be, yeah. At the same time, I kind of like the idea of, having a bit of religious or Christian narrative sprinkled into it, and how that might give the whole scenario a bit of an edge, where you might question, like, is it like a female-led society, or is there like a more like misogynistic narrative kind of underneath it that keep women in a specific place? I don't know. I guess we could talk about this forever, but
it could be both. So let's just name these scenarios, and then we can move on to the next thing. Is there anyone?
There's just one hand up. Sorry, Marjolaine.
No,
Elizabeth.
go ahead. Sorry, I see Elizabeth raising her hand.
No worries. You've got a lot to do this workshop. I have to admit, this was the scenario that I actually feel most ambiguous about and felt really queasy. And I thought, oh, come on, I have to contribute a photo at the very least, because I managed to do that for the others. So I contributed the one with the 3 women in different colors. Yeah. And I did think of a matriarchal society. And at the same time, it just makes me very nervous in a way, because gender roles, as we can see now, yes, of course, we want to encourage feminism. And at the same time, is it because somebody identifies as male or female? And so, yes, perhaps a matriarchal society is a better option in comparison to the patriarchy we have now. And then I think of fiction such as The Power. And I'm just wondering if that is actually a really good thing. I don't know if anyone's read the book or seen the series on Amazon Prime. It's when women essentially get a sort of a superpower and are physically more able than men. And so this scenario really made me think. So I just wanted to add that in there. And I was wondering, should I say something? Should I not? And I thought, oh, come on.
No, that's good. It's good that you say. And I think that's also with these scenarios, they are never it's not a good or a bad scenario. It's not a utopia or a dystopia. And I think that's what's interesting when you juxtapose these different developments. Like, I think none of these scenarios will ultimately be like the perfect Eden or whatever, which is the point of this kind of futurism, right? It's pluriversal. And then also, I really love that you say, like, I feel so ambiguous about it, and because of the reasons you mentioned. And I think that's also where when we feel that we can stay with those feelings and we can understand where they come from, I think that's when we can really start to reimagine and pinpoint, like, what should change, or what exactly are we going for? Is it like empowering women, which is of course one thing, or is it about more of these different social structures, right? And through that lens of feminism, we can change these structures, but then in the end, that might not matter as much, right? So not sure if that makes sense. So let's Sonja for the final comment, and then we're going to name these scenarios.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to labor the point if you want to move on.
No, just to share. I think this is actually what makes the workshop interesting, that we have these discussions. So please add.
Well, I thought I'd I'll provide another way of seeing that scenario, because to me it liberates us from seeing. I feel like the way we often describe gender roles is either that there's strong gender roles and women are inferior, which is what we are familiar with, or we eliminate gender. And what I like about this is that it can allow us to imagine a place where we value gender and all genders without them being hierarchically opposed. So away from this binary power dynamics. So imagine, for example, you have governance where women are responsible for well-being and for all decisions that regard national security and education. I mean, we'd have completely different worlds. So that's, I guess, where I was going with like some of the pictures I had put in there.
Yeah, thank you. Good addition and insight for this scenario. So just to name them, if anyone has some ideas for this scenario, please you can open your microphone, you can just shout them or you can type them in the chat. Let me see if there are some comments still. Stephanie also added, any scenario needs to be approached also what position or point of view I take on. Yes, for whom is the scenario positive or negative? What's my position? What's the attitude? Where am I from? So this is very important because of course we're going through this real quick. But ideally you would also of course think about like which perspective do I take? Like I've mentioned a couple of times in this workshop, like I'm from the Netherlands. Amrita's not. She's originally from India, now living in Berlin. But we still take a pretty Western perspective on this, which of course changes if you take a different kind of starting point or a different kind of society. Like if this was based in Tanzania, if you think from that kind of perspective, you get completely different ideas and also different values playing into this. So thank you for that addition. It's really important to keep in mind. So for this scenario, the communal groups and the strong labor division, I think it's something matriarchy related, matriarchy supreme. I don't know if that's the right word. If anyone has a better one, you can spend hours on naming scenarios the right way. Maybe supreme is not the best. Connected matriarchy. Maybe let's give it that name. Anyone have a better suggestion for this scenario? Please shout.
Or write it in the chat, like, yeah.
Well, could we have it like pluralarchy? I guess the idea is to avoid replacing patriarchy with matriarchy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I connected, so. Okay, pluralarchy. Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving on to the first one, which was basically all about like maybe a shared consciousness aided by technology, a more than human perspective, but also like really moving beyond our known like structures. Connected ecologies or not connected, we have that again.
More than human equality or something?
Yeah. Let's give it that name. I love that. So the second one was the no more genders, but still having these very strong family, like core family units, and the push to find that one perfect partner. I actually like chaotic sensibility a lot. Maybe it's too vague. It's a bit normative still, right? Normative.
Elizabeth put networked fluidity for the other one. Maybe this is the normative fluidity.
Yeah,
no?
I thought so too. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. And then this one, the Handmaid's Tale kind of vibe. It's about...
This is, I think, more of tech-based, role-based kind of a thing, because I see a lot of technology here mentioned more in the sphere. Yeah.
Yeah. So something with tech-driven society. It's a boring one. Does anyone have a better one?
Maybe
patriarchy?
Something connected with hierarchy.
Oh, hierarchies, tech,
techno hierarchies, something. Again, if you take more time, these these names get better, but I still like them. So we have more than human equality, normative fluidity, connected plurality, and techno hierarchies, which are a bit patriarchy for sure. So moving on to the next step, I think we'll take about 20 minutes for that. You can now choose any one of these, if you zoom out, any one of these green bubbles. Actually, you're going to be put in a separate breakout room with one other person. You're sort of assigned at random. And then with that other person, you can talk and chat, the two of you among yourselves. I hope this works. I hope so everyone's with us. And you're going to create a future story, a micro story. So let's just zoom in on one of these green bubbles, just to explain it a bit before you move into those breakout zones. So you have these bubbles. Every bubble is a prototype of the future, a story, a micro story. You just put your names at the top left, where you work, so you know who you're working with. And then you're going to fill this storyboard. At first, you're going to think of a character, like who are you going to tell your story about? Is it like, what kind of person is this? Is it someone like yourself or someone completely different? You can choose a non-human entity as well. Grab a photo either online or from this Miro board, just to visualize like the person or entity you're thinking about, and think a little bit about like name, age, profession, love, hate, catchphrases, or so that you flesh out your character a little bit. Then for the story, we have sort of two main scenes, if you will, or events. At first something happens. So what happens to your character? Like in that like Handmaid's Tale's future, of course, you can get all of kinds of ideas of what might happen to your character. And you can write it down. You can put images there. You can, put your thoughts so that this idea of what happens to your character becomes clear. And then to end on a positive note, these problems get solved. How do these problems get solved? Like if they're in a very restrictive society, how does your main character manage to live in that? Or if they live in a very communal society, like how do they manage all of these different relationships? Make it small, like make it a day, like if you imagine one day, like a regular day, what would happen and what can they, it doesn't have to be like a big epic problem. It can be like a minor annoying thing that happens to that person, just to get an idea of what it would be like to walk and breathe in one of these futures. You can choose with your group the future you like best. I didn't put it on the board, but can you put somewhere on the board the future that you chose, like the name of the scenario that you chose your future to be in? So you'll get, let's say 25 minutes for that. It's now 11:25. So let's get back into the central Zoom at 11:50. Yeah, that's right. That adds up, right? Yeah, that's 25 minutes. So you have some time to work on that. If you're finished, you can look around at the other boards, of course, to see what other people are making. And then at 11:50, we're back in the central Zoom. We'll take a look at a few of these stories and we'll sort of finish the workshop. So I'm looking at you guys now to, create these breakout rooms. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I know some of you were not finished yet. If you want, the Miro board is still open. You can continue to work on it or visit it after the workshop is done. I'll keep it up for at least for a while. But first, let me check in with some of you. Like, is there anyone who wants to share, like, just a little bit of their the story they created? Is there anyone who wants to take the lead with that? Because I saw
Okay, I can share our story because we liked our story. In the
Where's
end,
it's a board at the top left, or is the bottom left, right?
I think so. The name is Akaisha at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Kasia, Sonia, Sofia, we are all here.
Here. It's on the left middle a little bit.
Oh, wait, and I need to actually be able to read it. So let me. Okay, is this the one where everybody is?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we decided on the scenario, the bottom left corner, the one that was connected. One. Yeah, the connected plurarchy. And we decided that in 2100, we're beyond these binaries already. This communal society has every gender imaginable. So our main character is Metanoia, and they are a gender fluid entity that lives there. Their age is the third cycle, and they are a career life path type of advisor. And the name Metanoia is an ancient Greek word for transformation, spiritual transformation, changing one's mind and heart and such. So they're a gender fluid member of this communal society and an integral part of it. So suddenly one day, there's a new gender that Metanoia and all their life path stewarding and companionship has never encountered. This is an AI being who is somehow in their third cycle of existence as well. So they are supposedly at the same age as Metanoia. And as much as Metanoia tries to coach or accompany this person through the appropriate transformations that they would somebody, it's very challenging because this entity claims to be on their third cycle. And this is really a crisis for Metanoia because they don't fit into any of the genders that have existed. And it's really challenges what this communal society is even based on. And team, let me know if I'm confusing anything. So basically, yeah, they have a crisis of conscience because this being claims to be on the third cycle and not having gone through the first and second realizes that it's their humanity that actually is the most important thing and not even in a very inclusive society, the gender. So they go back and they challenge the whole concept of this gender divided though communal society. Okay. And I hope I got that right.
Thank you for that. So I think it's really interesting that you chose a non-binary character and then also explore like the challenges which sort of reflect maybe the challenges we have in the world like right now, but then set in a really far away future, and even with like different concepts like a new gender that arises. I would be really curious to how this is resolved, which is of course the next step. And I was in your session and I heard you discuss this quite extensively. Of course, we only have a little time and it's a bit crunched, but I love that you've already come up with this character and these concepts because they really inform us how we can deal with things right now as well. We have like 6 minutes. We have to be really mindful of the time. I have to finish at 11 because the new session starts, but I have time for one other quick recap of one of the stories, like maybe the one we see in the Zoom shared screen right now. I don't see. Oh, it's by Charlotte, Sarah, and Elizabeth. Does any one of you want to quickly talk us through this story?
Charlotte?
Yeah.
Sort of a story writer.
I can do it. You can make. You can please add if I forget something. Yeah. So we named our character Eunice Shazaro. I guess you would pronounce it. Yeah, we actually started by kind of learning a little bit more about the world. So we imagined us people living in tribes, and that, you know, when those tribal structures kind of came up, they were kind of still very much connected, but then they alienated. And so the idea of tribal meetings came up to overcome this alienation. And yeah, those tribal meetings happen around once a year. And this is where our character comes in. She is, yeah, we kind of distance ourselves a little bit from the concept of age in years. We kind of questioned, you know, how age would be measured. So we thought about, does age maybe have to do with like your psychological development or with the tasks that you have accomplished for the community? And we kind of went with that one. We decided that the girl Eunice was kind of like almost adult in terms of what she has accomplished for her tribe, and that now she is like attending this tribal meeting as she needs like one more batch to be considered like a grown-up. We imagine that she is really much into like the history of the past, and she loves reading, and she really hates spinach and technology. And her catchphrase is like, "Oh, I've read about that. Here's the author of that book." Please, team, add something. What did I forget to mention?
Sarah, do you want to add anything?
No, I think it was pretty much covered. I think we were more interested in really understanding the world and understanding the character and getting deep into, like, it automatically is very conflicting trying to think of a world that is both a community but is divided, and how to bridge that gap. So it led to some fascinating conversation about it, and just trying to, you know, build the foundation for that.
Yes.
Yeah, we wanted to start with a sort of very typical YA trope and then flip the narrative, because all of us have been frustrated with the books that we read while growing up. And so we wanted to start with something that is relatable and then flip it on its head and change the social constructs that we currently have and introduce new ones. The challenge, the problem, we didn't get there yet because we were too busy creating the world.
Yeah, I see that, and I love that for this, for your board, for this part, that you've fleshed out these little details like this, like spinach and technology and the catchphrases, because that really brings it to life. And I know the time's crunched, so maybe focusing on either character building or more of the story is perfectly fine. I also like with these two examples that you chose, the bit challenging scenarios where you have these two different things that you try to unite together. So I think if you want, please take a look around at the board. I have these appreciation stickers and post-its next to it. You can look at the other person's stories and show your appreciation for those ideas. If this was a workshop I would do like for a whole day, what we would ideally do after this, because I know this feels kind of unsatisfying, like you created this story and now what? What we would be doing then is to backcast from these futures fleshed out scenarios to the present. We would discuss a lot more in terms of, is this a desired future? For whom? Who benefits? Who holds power? Who can change things? And what kind of things do you need to put in place for these scenarios to work towards them? All the while knowing that these kind of long-term, like 2100 futures, you cannot plan them, right? But you can see aspects of that you can work on in the present or in 5 years or in 10 years. So what I would do is then create these pathways towards these futures as an idea of working towards long-term transformational change. So I hope that you really enjoyed this workshop with Amrita and me. I don't know if anyone worked with any of the AI tools. I don't know if we shared them in the chat. Maybe I forgot to do that. But if you want to learn more of our work, you can move up this board to the title, the Fluid Worlds title, and with our names, you see our Instagram handles. I would love for you to see you in the LinkedIn group that will be created and talk more on this kind of future work. So it's 12 o'clock. We've come to the end. We have no time for questions or anything, but I really want to thank everyone, and I hope I will see you somewhere again in this kind of futurist work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marjolein and Amrita. It was an excellent session. I think everyone had a lot of fun with it.
It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And I know that there's many people arriving already for the next session, which will be run by Sonia and Tiana. And it's titled Pivot Points in Gender Mainstreaming, Navigating Shifts in Gender Awareness in the Future of Animal Health and Wellbeing. So if you can stay with us, please do so. If not, take a look at the recording later and take a look at the program, because we have many sessions still today and next week. And we hope you can join us in as many sessions as possible.